Essen 2023, that's what we're talking about today. Stick around.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
That's right, I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Wayne.
And this is the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
How we game, yes indeed. Wayne, you been playing anything interesting lately?
Not really. We had the big con last week, 2 weeks ago, and I had like 30 plus games in it, and then got back to work, and this was my birthday weekend, so,
That's right. Sorry, happy belated.
Thank you, happy belated, yes, to me, yes. And getting to be an old man, closer and closer to AARP.
Getting to be one?
Getting to be, yeah. I haven't gotten the AARP card in the mail yet, so I'm not quite that old yet, right? So I'm not there yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, it was interesting. We, a bunch of birthday type stuff over the weekend. But then my wife said, "Hey, Saturday night, let's get back to playing Gloomhaven. We haven't played Gloomhaven in a couple months. Let's get back to it." So Saturday afternoon, I kind of spent some time setting it up. I get to the point where we're figure out where we were in the storyline and get to the mission, and then it came to play, and I just looked at it. I said, "You know what? I don't want to play this right now. I just she's like, all right, if you don't want it." She's like, why? We talked about it. I said, well, while I'm setting it up, I'm seeing what the mission is gonna maybe entail, right? And it was something like there were pillars, and you had to destroy the pillars, and every time you did damage to them, it did damage to you, and then every time a pillar got destroyed, it would spawn more enemies, and I said, you know what? I don't know if it's the length of time we haven't played. But the things I don't like about Gloomhaven were exacerbated in my mind, and I feel like it, and I know that this is just me. I know there's plenty of people who love Gloomhaven and love Jaws of the Lion, and Rob and other guys in the crew really love it. But I just don't feel it. It doesn't scale well to me, and to me, being a role player, someone who's a D&D player, it's like my character hasn't really grown all that much. I've gotten a couple of new cards that do some cool stuff. But as you level, you don't really gain a tremendous amount more hit points. You don't get to keep more cards, right? That's very static.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. Is the card.
And the monsters seem to be just getting disproportionately tougher. I don't feel like there's, as coming from the D&D where GMs can constantly modify and kind of if the monster's too hard or too easy, they can throw more or less at you, or they can pull punches, or they can play it right to make the story good. Gloomhaven just doesn't have that. It's just a math puzzle of how can I use these 10 cards that I'm going to have, and that's the only 10 cards I'm going to have to defeat this. So I don't know if Gloomhaven's for me, being a role-play gamer, because I don't like the way it levels. I feel like, and it could be just me. Maybe I'm just missing something, or maybe we're not playing enough to really get into it and really know our characters well. But I just didn't want to play. I just it's just, I'm not feeling it, and I wonder if it's part of it is the D&D aspect, part of it is the time away from it. But I think that's just a tangential thing. It's similar, like when we were playing Pandemic Legacy, we had to take a break for several months, and it's just really hard to get back into a campaign game when you take a break.
That's true. That is true. I think what I'll say is, because you're an RPGer, I think you're predisposed to maybe dislike this, because I think it was Carlos that explained Gloomhaven is kind of like a stepping stone between the board game world and the RPG world, and I think from the board gamer's perspective, which is more me, I've never really been big into RPG, that it gives me the taste of an RPG without taking away the mechanics of a board game that I feel comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think that's why, for me, it may have hit a little bit harder for you. But I don't know.
It may be that I live in both worlds. I play a ton of board games, and I also play role play. And when you try to merge the two, it can be hard, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'm so used to certain role play systems and how it works that I'm not grokking. I'm just not sure I like the card based system of Gloomhaven. Because I don't feel like you're not branching in trees in feats and stuff like that. You just get a card that gives you some additional choices to do similar things. It's not varied enough, and I don't feel like the characters are exponentially getting D&D has kind of an exponential growth. Your first couple of levels, you're almost gonna die but then you hit 4th, 5th level, and you just kind of skyrocket in power. And I'm not seeing that in Gloomhaven. It's gonna be kind of just a very gradual growth of power. And it just didn't get me. So, we will finish it. We will go back to it. I'm going to set it back up probably after my brother's in town this week, so I had to take it off the table because we're probably going to play some games with him. I'm hoping to get Axis and Allies D-Day in with him this week when he gets into town. So we're going to get back to Gloomhaven. I just didn't feel it this weekend. I was just setting up the scenario, and I just was dreading it. And I think that was a good call.
Well, the setup of Gloomhaven is insane. You have to go through all those tiles and everything.
Well, at least this is Jaws of the Lion, so it's a book,
okay. Sorry, it was Jaws. That's right.
It's not as bad, but
big improvement.
But it's a good thing. It's like when you're setting up a game to play, if you're just already like at a place where you're like, I don't know about this, it's good to just pull the plug. So it was good that no new games played for me. Just word of wisdom, I guess. If you just as you're setting up a game, if you're just shaking your head going, this is gonna suck, just don't do it, right? Just
fair. I mean, I've been in that situation plenty of times, and I still played it anyway.
Yeah, we went and binge watched Wheel of Time. We watched like 2-3 episodes of Wheel of Time. So yeah.
So we'll come back to that in a minute for our geeky goodness, but I do want to talk about my game played. But by the way, I don't know if you realized, but we did a bait and switch. You guys thought this was what we've been playing. It was actually Wayne's Grab Corner, starting off a cold open. No, I'm joking. No, so actually, I'm also going to talk about a game that, spoiler alert, I did not like. And last week I accidentally connected our two topics because my game played was Terraforming Mars, the dice game, and then we were talking about AI art. So I'm going to do that this week. This one's kind of on purpose, though. I was looking through the games I played in the last week, and one of them, to be fair, I only played it on BGA, so of course, that changes the lens, and maybe it's because I didn't play it in person. But supposedly it's like an Essen release. I saw it on one of the Essen lists, and that's Forest Shuffle. I think it may already... Well, I don't know if it's already out, because I know Jamie Stegmaier already made a video about his favorite mechanism, so I don't know if he just played on BGA or in person. But so if you guys don't know, Forest Shuffle... At first seems, it's a cool concept. It's a multi-use card game where you're like kind of like making an ecosystem, and you plant trees, and then the cards that are not trees, they either can do the top or the bottom, or the left or the right of the card getting tucked underneath the tree. And so you kind of try to maximize where you want your tree to have cards on all four sides, and the cards have all kind of like synergies. And you have to pay the cost of a card with other cards, and if it matches its color, you might get an extra bonus. All those things sound really, really cool, but I blue screened. You have so many options to the point that I just started playing whatever was cheapest. Because yes, I have this card. Okay, let's say I like the top of the card. Well, now I need to pay for it with this other card. But wait, I like the bottom ability of that card. So maybe I play the bottom of this card and I pay for it with this. But then I lose the top ability of that card, and it was just like a complete circle of logic, and it was too many choices for me to the point that it just felt like random toward the end. Another thing I did not like about it was it's got that Ethnos mechanic where in the second half of the deck, there are those three, I think they're called winter cards that trigger the end of the game. So in my first play of it, the last winter card was literally the last card. So it just felt like it was dragging along. Game, so that may have colored my perception of it a little bit, that kind of random thing that happened. But I'm in a second game of it right now, and I'm liking it even less. So that's definitely a deny for me on Forest Shuffle. What are your thoughts?
I tried it. I also played it on BGA, so obviously it'd be probably different when you play it in real life. Although I think this would almost be like the Earth thing, where it's like a little fiddly. Although Earth is
definitely with all that tucking,
with all the tucking and moving. It seemed neat, right? Because you have trees and you play those trees, and then you're going to surround the trees with animals, right? Either top, north, south, east, west, underneath, above, whatever, with animals, and it's cool. And there's some synergies there. Like you play squirrels, and it's like if you have X amount of squirrels, you get nuts, which are victory points, right? But then if you have a predator, for every you have like coyotes or wolves or whatever, and they score more if you have X amount of these, or if you have like toads, and so you're constantly looking for matching cards that are gonna help you score. Because if you have the game I was playing, something like I had these mushrooms, and then the mushrooms scored extra if you had certain like herbivores tucked to the thing, but I could never get them, right? Or I never got it seemed hard. You either were drafting blind, or as you pay. The good thing is as you pay for cards, they get put in the center, and you can kind of redraft
until you get to 10 cards, right?
You get to 10 cards. So there was some cool stuff there, but I just felt like it'd be hard or a little bit lucky for you to get those symmetries of the characters that score off of each other. So it makes it hard to get that, because it's not a multiplayer solitaire where you can just pull your own stuff. If I can see, I can look over your deck and I see, oh, he's building a bunch of mushrooms, so he really needs squirrels. Well, I'm going to use the other side of the squirrel card to tuck and not pay for it, and hide it from you or whatever. So
where is it on the multiplayer solitaire scale, Wayne, that we devised?
I don't know. It's somewhere in the middle, I think, because you are.
I think it's more toward multiplayer solitaire than not.
It's more towards than not. Yeah. The where the not is what you pay to play. You put back out there for other people to draft from. And if you're sharp enough to look around, you can probably. And so I think this is definitely a game that you need multiple plays of to be able to pivot of, hey, I need squirrels and I'm not getting squirrels, so what can I pivot to, or what other animals am I looking for that are going to help score off of other cards that I'm playing? You can lay down multiple trees. It was okay. It was. I'm not. What's interesting, I don't think it's out yet. It's for pre-order and it's from Lookout Games. It's got a rating of 7.4 already, but I don't see that. I don't. It was okay.
Well, so again, playing in person. So the problem with BGA playing turn-based, it's like I look at all these cards, right? I buy a card. 15 minutes, a couple hours later, I go to play another turn. I got to read all these cards again. Yeah. I don't remember it. So if I'm playing live, I think that would be a little bit better. I'm having that same problem right now. I'm playing Wizards of the Grimoire on BGA turn-based. It's the same thing. It's a card-based game. There's a display of, I think, 8 cards, plus I have my hand. And so I'm having to constantly, every turn, remind myself what's in the display, that if it was a turn that I took 5 seconds ago in real life, it might have been different.
Yeah, and I think this game would benefit in person. I don't know if, and that's where a good argument is. Like some games, the BGA implementation, especially async, that's kind of a game that you would play real time on BGA. Like I don't know if that's a game I want to play async anymore. I played one of them. I liked it. Okay, I didn't hate it. But it was okay. But it was. I think this is also a game. It's very pretty. The art's very nice. It's a unique concept of you're playing animals around the tree to create this kind of like ecosystem. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it really does anything that spectacular for me.
Yeah, so, I agree. So I think we both agree on that. And tell us if you guys have played it on BGA and have had a different experience. Maybe we're missing something.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we got some geeky goodness. You're catching up on Wheel of Time, right?
Well, yeah, finally. Yeah, because I think we had talked a couple weeks ago that my wife and I weren't getting into it just because it was so different than the books, and they were and what I think. So on Saturday we ended up watching 3 episodes back to back to back, and it finally got to the point. I think same thing in first season. First 3 or 4 episodes of the first season had the same feeling. It was just
you got to get through that exposition.
It was dragging, so slow, like the slowest expedition possible. And then it hits a point like mid-season where it's like it speeds up and okay, now we're rocking and rolling. Now we're moving things along.
Well, man, once Egwene became a Soldom, is that what it's called? That was an awesome episode.
Yeah, and that's sort of where we're at now. It's like, oh, okay, now it's moving along. But I think that there's so much in the Wheel of Time books that I keep going back to. Don't add stuff new. Don't change things. Just tell. You have enough story there to tell. So we're still not a huge fan of the changes they're making.
Well, I know some of the changes weren't their choice. I know the character who played Matt, the actor, he didn't come back after COVID in season 1, so they had to separate him from the crew because
because
using recycled footage.
Where it's well, that's Matt's journey in the book.
He's supposed to be with Perrin, right?
Yeah, and doing some other. Yeah, there was some stuff there where that does make sense. And then the Black Aja that they introduced, a totally different character that they're doing it with.
I just felt like it was so predictable.
It kind of was. In the books, it's not as predictable.
I'm not surprised at all. I knew you were evil since episode 1.
Yeah, you were building up to that, but so it's picking up. Anyway. I will say this though: the costuming is really good, and my wife made the comment that one of the things she hated about not Martin, Jordan, is he'd spend an entire chapter, 50 pages describing a dress, and it's really, dude. But the costuming, especially of the...
that sounds like Tolkien. Stop talking about trees. Yeah. We get it. There are trees.
We get it, yeah. But so they are doing a good job of the ridiculousness of the costuming that he describes, because there's a lot of characters that have just ridiculous costumes, like the people with the long fingernails and all that stuff. So it's picking up. We're going to finish the season, obviously, but it's man, you don't need to spend 3-4 episodes really just dragging stuff out. Just speed it up. There's enough materials there where you could do 30 seasons of this and still not get through all the materials in the book. So, but no, it's good. And then today we're recording this on Tuesday. The season finale of Ahsoka's tonight.
Yes, so I'll be watching it.
I'm looking forward to that. The last few episodes have been fantastic, and later this week, Loki season 2 starts.
I think is it not tomorrow? I thought it was tomorrow. On Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. So Ahsoka should be tonight, and then Loki is tomorrow. So it's bam.
And Only Murders finale is tomorrow too.
I'm on season 2. I'm on
Okay.
episode 3 of season 2. I keep getting mad. I cursed my computer today because I don't know what it is. Every time I try to bring up Hulu to watch an episode, it errors out that episode. I can watch other stuff on Hulu. Just the third episode of Mercy
That's
in the Building
annoying.
keeps erroring out on me. So I'm like, I can't progress. I don't want to skip an episode. So, but yeah,
It's a big week. Ron Fraser had posted about that earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the season finales of Wheel of Time, and Ahsoka and Only Murders. The premiere of Loki. I know you probably don't follow reality TV, but last week was the premiere of Survivor and Amazing Race. It's just like this is a weird time where things are ending and things are beginning. It's exciting.
And hey, the writer's strike isn't officially over. So everyone's
like
back
all the
in
late night shows came back last night.
Yeah, I was liking it. Yep.
Yep. So, what else is happening? Essen Spiel, so the world's biggest board gaming con. And lots of new releases. Wayne and I, we're going to go over our top 5 most anticipated games. For me, I'll kind of tell you guys my strategy here. Of course, there are the big names that everybody knows, and I don't want to ignore those. But I also wanted to make sure I included some that maybe you guys haven't heard of, some that are a little bit less known in my list. So they're not all going to be the huge big names. I saved that for my top 3. But I'm also have a couple that I personally am interested in, even if there's not a lot of hotness and hype.
Yeah, and we did no pre-planning on to see if we have crossovers. So I do have I think I have 10 that I could talk about. So if you end up talking about one of mine, I can knock it off and talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So you guys were doing this live. It's improv.
And I have a couple of expansions that I could talk about too. That I would look to get if I was going there.
Well, since you're the one who did the bonus point work to have the extra stuff, and I didn't, why don't I go first? That way you can pivot.
I can pivot, yes.
Okay, so my number 1 that I'm mentioning is called Evenfall. It's got this really beautiful artwork of a tree on the front cover, and that's what initially drew my eye to it. And so, again, looking at this, I'm not a components person, I'm not an art person, I'm a mechanics person, but I'm trying to look at this from an unbiased perspective and look at, the things that some of the other people may be drawn to. And so I just saw this cover, and it's so beautiful. And so I started researching the game a little bit and looking at the other components. It's like you're like these witches and wizards in like this fantasy land, and you're casting spells, and the production of the components are really cool. They're like these little potion wooden components. You have these meeples that you have this big old hat. It's like a wizard's pointy hat that looks really cute and cool, and it's just kind of like an engine builder in this fantastical, magical setting, and it just kind of drew my eye, mostly because of the art on it. I'd never heard of it before.
Nice.
Have you seen this one at all?
I haven't actually. That was like it's not on my list of games to look at. So that's certainly an interesting one.
It's not from a publisher that I've heard of. I think I had clicked. It might have been their first game. Not publisher. I mean designer. Stefano De Silvio. It looks like it's his first game, and it's being published by DLP Games and Nanox Games. Have you heard of those publishers?
Nope.
No, yeah. So I did my job then. I wanted something that people hadn't already heard about a million times, and maybe it'll be kind of a diamond in the rough. Definitely, the art will help it stand out. That's my number 1. My number 5.
Number 5, yeah. You're right. Evenfall, cool. Yeah, that seems like I like the name too. All right, so my number 5, I'm going to go with probably one of the heaviest or the longest of the games. So it's a game that I don't know if I would buy it. So, but it seems that I like the concept of it, and it seems kind of cool. I'm kind of in this space mindset now. Evacuation. Is the first one that
is this the 2-player game?
It's 1 to 4. Vladimir Suchi from Delicious Games, and it's kind of cool because it looks like there's 2 different. The board is almost like 2 different planets, right? And like you start off on one planet, and it's kind of getting irradiated. The sun is too hot, and it's like burning up the planet. And so
it looks a little bit like Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, it kind of has a little Terraforming Mars feel.
I mean, space.
Space, yeah. But I mean, the weight is like 3.5. It's 60 to 150 minutes, so it's a big game. But I think it's kind of like a pick up and deliver almost mechanism, because basically what you're doing is you're trying to have contracts or missions to move things from the planet that's kind of dying off to another planet. You're trying to evacuate, right? Trying to move things over. So intense sunlight is burning out the planet. So it's an economic game. You're trying to move from one planet to the next. So it's kind of got the hand management, and it's got income, and so it seemed like an interesting game. And I think I've heard Rado talk about it, and some of the other people talk about it as the artwork is pretty cool. It's kind of very, like you said, very Terraforming Mars-ish, but I like the idea of like it almost goes like Last Light too. It's like the planet's dying, and you need to figure out ways to do your hand management, move your resources and people from the one planet off to the next, and it's got like that track that goes between the two. So that was the first one that kind of just caught my eye. Maybe I'm in the space mindset because I have several space type games that I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So
yeah, I was going to say, so in doing my research, there are a lot of space games coming out of Essen this year, and honestly, I saw this one, I saw the cover, and it just did not grab my eye because I'm like, oh, it's another space game, and because whenever I mentioned the 2-player one, I think it's a 2-player one. Like at Gen Con, they had it, and they had like I think like a real life setup where they had like space pods.
I know what you're talking about.
I was thinking it was that.
That's like the you're like trying to. It's like Apollo 13, the game, right? You're trying to
right. That's what I thought. Yep. But man, looking at this, it looks really cool. I think it is a theme that stands out from all the other space games. You're not just randomly exploring space or randomly going to another planet. And I'm assuming this line between the two planets is like a tracker, right? As you have to be out by this time.
Yeah, that's your route to get from.
Okay, I see. Is what I so thematically, it seems like these mechanics work really, really well together. It's not a theme specifically this theme we've seen before. And I don't know, it just seems like you could do a lot with this. It actually reminds me, kind of harkening back to geeky goodness, Brendan Sanderson, the guy who had the biggest Kickstarter ever with his surprise novels, the one that just came out 2 days ago, it's about a planet where like the sun is so hot that like literally if you're in the sunlight anytime, you're going to burn up. And the planet is so small, it rotates so quickly that they're constantly having to move to like be in front of the planet, the sun. Anyway, it just kind of reminds me of that, of like literally the characters are trying to figure out like how do we leave this planet so we stop getting burned by the sun. And that's almost exactly how you kind of explained it. So very cool.
Yep. All right, your number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Sea Dragons. This is, again, like I said, one of the ones, I'm trying to pick one that's not super out there. It's from some designers whose names I will not try to pronounce. It's from Fractal Juegos. This one looks really cool and up my alley. It looks a little bit more family weight. It's a 2.0. I could probably play with my kids. So it's an area control game, and it's kind of flipping the traditional narrative on its head. So it starts off in the summary talking about how like there are pirates, looking for treasure, and then it's you must defend the seas from these pirates by taking down their ships. So you're not the pirates, you're the sea dragons trying to take down the pirates. And so it's got these really cool components. So they have these sea dragon heads, sea serpents, and then behind it, it's like the loops, like it's coming out of the water and going back in. And so there are these cards that have different patterns, and you're using those patterns to set out your dragons. And it's an area majority game where you're trying to take over the sea as different clans or colors of sea dragons. Looks like a lot of fun. This is one I could definitely see me and my kids playing fairly often because it's got a little bit of that toy factor, but it also seems like it's not so light that I would be bored with it. It's got some strategy to it.
Okay, that seems cool. Yeah. So 2 for 2 that are not on my list.
Woohoo!
We're
going to get there, I'm sure.
I'm sure
if we get to my top 3, yeah.
So keeping with the space theme, and this is potentially even longer and more complex than the first game I mentioned. I would have switched them if I had looked at it closer, but remembered that there was so Galactic Cruise. Ian O'Toole art, designer TK King and Dennis Northcutt. Weight 3.8, so it's heavy game, 90 to 150 minutes. But just the theme of it, like, got me in there. So let me read it. So, hello, welcome to the Galactic Cruise. Here, we're off to our guests something special, a comfort of a luxury cruise in the innovation of space travel. Be the first company to offer extended stay vacations. So it's like you're building a cruise line in space, right? So it's like there's like, Doctor Who has episodes like that, and there's the comedy thing with the guy from. There's the HBO show where they're like in space and it's like a space cruise. I can't think of the guy's name now. From the 30-Year-Old Virgin. What's his name? Yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. But that theme, just like this idea that like you're building like a cruise ship in space, and it's like the Love Boat in space, or like just whatever. Just there's a million different like themes that or sci-fi movies and shows or books that have kind of brushed that theme. So it kind of struck me, and Ian O'Toole art will always get you in. But this also, like, what gets me a little worried, though, is, like, when you look at the mechanisms for this game, it's got, like, 30 listed. So it's like that oh, my God, my brain is just not working today. Like that Kickstarter bloat that you get nowadays with games. What's the Ice Age game that came out last year that had, like, a million different modules and... Come on, Mitchell, help me out here, man.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure out what the Ice Age game.
Yeah, or like the
like Ice Age, like Endless Winter? That's what you're trying.
Yes, there we go. Endless Winter.
Okay,
there you go.
sorry.
Sorry. Apologize, folks, for the home. I might, work's been crazy, but how like Endless Winter just got like a million different mechanisms jammed in there, and they don't necessarily all always work together. So this has got like action points and end game bonus, hand management, income, market, modular boards, open drafting, set collection. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
A little bit of everything. But sometimes I play games like that. And I'm like, these games would be good if they were split into 2 or 3 different games.
But just I love the tool art. Just the theme of it as far as kind of just got me in there, and I kind of Dennis Northcutt and TK. I've seen them on talking about stuff, and they just seem like they got it together, right? They know what they're doing. So I would give this a try. This is like the first 2 games because of the weight and complexity of them. I would certainly want to try it before I buy it, but this is, I think, the first time you get a chance to see a lot of these. So it'd be interesting to see, how this plays. But it looks cool. So
man, these cards look really cool. It looks like each card is maybe like its own like space shuttle rocket thing, but then you play it on top of another one and it extends it up higher. That's some really good design. Yeah,
it looks like a cool game, but it definitely looks like it's going to be a little bit of a complex game to play. But it could be cool.
Ooh, I found a picture on BGG from Origins, a playtest that looks like an Evan Halberd, designer of After the Empire, friend of the Gumbo Show, playtesting it with Jeremy Howard, it looks like.
Oh, cool. Nice.
All right, moving right along for me, my number 3 is the White Castle. No, not the the restaurant.
There we go.
Oh, it is one of yours? No.
That's fine. I cross it out. We go. This one looks good.
DeVere makes some solid games, but not only that, this is from the same designers as the Red Cathedral, which is a game I love. So we're moving from Russia over to Japan, and so it's just kind of like palace intrigue in the White Castle in Japan. It has some stunning components. It is, I believe, if I remember correctly, a worker placement game. Mechanism worker placement. I had to double check. I'm getting these all confused. But just, again, the art is what drew me to it. And then as I started researching the mechanics and some of the components, it was like, this is one I know I'm going to want to have. You have these really cool, I guess, like samurai meeples. You can see their swords and their hat. It's got some dice in it. They're like these little bridges that you have the dice going over. Looks like something that would be 100% up my alley and will probably be on my table as soon as I can get it ordered.
Yeah, I had kind of written this one off a while ago when I first read about it or heard about it. And then, I saw Jeremy Howard had an Essen preview a couple of days ago that I was just watching, and he had it set up on the table. I guess he had gotten, a pre-production copy of it. And I was like, oh, that looks cool, and he was talking about how even as solo, it was really good and it had some good movement. And so it just looked like a fun game, and definitely it went up my list pretty high after hearing him glowing about it. So, and the fact that he had it set up on the table means he's like, I've been playing a lot of this. That's just more than just him doing it for a show. He's clearly doing it for his own time too. So yeah.
What I think is interesting about it is that whenever you think of Japan or games set in Japan, it's always about like the fighting. People think of samurais and all that.
Samurai
and there's definitely that. There's defending the castle, but the fact that it's about like trying to get influence in the court and things like that, which you usually think of that kind of like more of a European medieval setting, but it's like for some reason about the Far East, we don't think of that. We just think of they had cool swords,
But that clearly happened in their courts and in their palaces, and
right. So it's just kind of like a new twist on. We've played a million games set in Japan or games with samurai and stuff like that, but it's like a new twist on it, which I liked.
But in classic DeVere, it's gorgeous looking. I mean, that's it's really good looking game. So that's when I saw it on the table and the table presence in Jeremy Howard's video. I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So yeah, all right, cool. All right, so that one's off my list. Let me pull in another one. I'm going to pull in. I'll pull an adjustment. So I'm going to pull up a sort of sequel or successor to the Kites. I don't know if you know Kites. The board game came out last year where you're trying to fly kites and you have sand timers that you're flipping to keep them in the air.
No.
So anyway, the game came out last year, 2 years ago, called Kites, where it was, it's kind of like a real-time game almost, where you have sand timers that you're flipping over. And so they've come out with a new sort of a take on that called Skyrockets. And you're putting on a festival of fireworks. Oh. And so you have, like, the sand timers are your fireworks that are, going up and exploding and showing in the sky. And you have to work together to play cards to flip certain sand timers back over, and if any of the sand timer runs out, you lose because your show, had a black spot, where there's no fireworks going off.
So this is like Hanabi with sand timers.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit, yeah. I guess. 10 to 15 minute game, quick game, 2 to 5 players. So this is kind of I like the idea that it's just this kind of fast pace. You have cards, you're playing cards to flip over sand timers, and you're trying to work together to play the cards in the right order to keep the sand timers going for as long as possible to score more points and to get the victory. So I thought that was just kind of a neat little idea. I haven't actually played Kites yet, but I think one of the knocks on it was it was pretty hard, right? It was pretty unforgiving, and this is kind of maybe a little less as harsh, a little bit more forgiving for that. So it might be a game that you can play with kids and with a family, and it's just kind of a cool little theme of like you're trying to put on a show. So
yeah, real time games are such a hit or miss topic,
right?
So I mean, I think of like, no offense, Stonemeyer, but Pendulum was horrible. Because there was so much of the games like just waiting around for those timers to finish. But then there are other games where the timer is so fast, it's so stressful. It's like, how am I supposed to do anything? It's really hard to thread that needle and find that happy medium.
Right.
And even if it's a good medium for one person, it doesn't mean it's for the other. So like, I love Galaxy Trucker. I have friends that it stresses them out too much.
Yeah.
Something like Captain Sonar. I know it's not timers, but real time.
Yeah.
It's a divide in my group. Half my group freaking loves it. The other half is like, I never want to play it again.
I love both of those.
Yeah. So I love Galaxy Trucker and Captain Sonar, but Pendulum, no. So it's if it's only a 15-minute game, it's not a huge buy-in. I could see that being if people don't, if they're stressed out about it, at least it's over in 10, 15 minutes. But at the same time, to me, the fun of a real-time game is like the stakes, right? So if it's only 10 minutes that I'm playing and it's like, I don't need a rush, it's going to be,
Well, and to add to it, too, I think it's kind of got a little bit of the crew of it, right? So the game comes with 30 festivals, and you're trying to put on that festival. Or like each festival, there's something you have to accomplish, like during the show or something like that, like have certain ones flipped over, or have certain ones in certain orders. So it's got to, like, you could just play it to play it, but you can also play these festivals where it's got 30 different missions that you can work through. So it's anyway, it looked pretty cool. I would give it a try.
For sure. All right, moving on to my number 2. This is going to be another big one. It's probably on your list. Barcelona, you have that one?
I was going to put it on my list, and then I said, you know what? Of all the games on my list, I bet you Barcelona's on Mitchell. So it also technically, I think it released at Gen Con, or was I there? So I didn't want to. I didn't worry. I don't think
it's like available for purchase.
Right.
Yet. I think it was at Gen Con, yes, but I don't think it's like on sale. Like, I have a buddy that pre-ordered it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think technically not until after Essen is it going to ship, but semantics. It's the same problem we had with Essen. Gen Con. We were talking about some of these were kind of already released, but it is on the list of things to be released at Gen Con. But yeah, Barcelona. So Board and Dice, man, I've really enjoyed some of their games I've played recently. Toledo and Terracotta Army and Mandala Stones, and so it's another one of their city games. Although this one doesn't start with a T. The thing that's interesting in this to me. It is a worker placement, a top placement game, but I feel like a lot of these games in the Board and Dice world and the cities, they're kind of like set like a long time ago. But this one, it feels very, very modern. I mean, it's technically, I think it's set. It says 1860, which is not crazy modern, but they are. You're building the what's it called? Like the tram network. The construct buildings companies. I'm trying to find it. Tramline, yeah, create tram lines and build public services. So whenever you think of trams, it seems very modern. So it's not like you're in this city that's hundreds of years ago. It's a city that's modernizing. And although train games are a thing, it's kind of like a city building game alongside that mechanic of building this network and this route. The components look really cool. Board and Dice is always good with their some of their chunkier bits, and it's been getting a lot of buzz. That I'm the cult of the new, of course. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, it was on my list, and I think it was Barcelona. Sorry, BJ from Board Game Gumbo actually posted, I think, like a written top 5 games.
Yeah.
I think that was one of them on there.
Yeah,
I didn't want to just. His list was a great list. He had like a couple other on there that like I wanted to stay away from. The games he listed here, like the Rats of Worcester and a couple other ones, I'm like, I'm not going to touch on that. I want to get different ones because we want to be diverse. We want to show other games off that other people maybe aren't talking about. So,
of course, man, I thought we were going to go a week without mentioning BJ, but there we go. He snuck his way back on.
Yeah. You guys had fun last night. It was good with your giveaways. So cool. Mm-hmm. So all right, my number 2 is a little background. One of my best friends that I played board games with, Kevin. He has a hobby that when I saw this game, I was like, oh, I have to get this game because if I bring it to game night, he's gonna like lose his shit. Excuse my language, sorry. So he is a bonsai guy, right? You go to his house, his
in
backyard,
real life. You're talking
in real
about?
life,
Okay.
yeah. His backyard, he's got like these wood pedestals built, and he's got like 20 or 30 different bonsai trees, and like he'll do like a barbecue. Like we'll have a board game day, and I'll show up to board game day, and he'd been all morning with his buddy, another buddy of his, doing bonsai cutting and whatever. Anyway, so there's a game coming out called Bonsai, and it comes out next year, and the tagline is you take role as an expert in bonsai master trying to grow your own tree. Whoever grows the best bonsai plant for the Imperial Gardens wins. So it's like this kind of like you're growing bonsai trees in this game. So it's drafting and tile placement, and it just looked cool. It looked like you have a little plant, and you're adding to your bonsai tree, trying to grow it out, and so. Just the look of it, I'm like, oh, this just looks fun. It looks like a fun, not super heavy, it's like a under midweight, lightweight, mid to lightweight game, where you're drafting tiles, you're building out this bonsai tree to make it asymmetrical or however all the rules. I'm not a bonsai guy, but my buddy is. So
Yeah.
it just looks like a fun game. It looks cute, right?
Thematically sounds really cool.
Right.
I'm looking at the pictures, so it's hexes.
Right.
So in my opinion, these bonsai trees don't look very good because they're like chunky.
Yeah.
But
some of them look like that though. Some of them, I don't get it. Like I go to his house and like you go, see that tree? That tree is like an award-winning tree, and I'm like, it looks ugly as hell, but okay.
Tile placement is not my jam whenever it comes to mechanics. Whenever you said the name, I was like, ooh, that sounds like a cool game. And then I looked up in here, and I realized it was tile placement. I'm like,
I'm
maybe
out.
not. So cool theme. Mechanics don't really pique my interest. But your bonsai buddy, is he a board gamer?
Yeah, hardcore. Yeah, him and I.
Okay, I was about to say, if not, this might be his gateway.
Yeah, he's and like him and I we'll get together in Castle Burgundy. We'll play all the he's a just like us. But this is his like my side gig used to be brewing beer. His is doing bonsai trees. So I would get this game as a Christmas present for him or something. If I was going to Essen, I would buy this solely as a Christmas present for him, knowing that I'm going to play it with him. So it'd be great.
Have you talked to him about it yet?
I haven't yet. Yeah, so I might see if I can get a copy of it.
Nice.
Anyway,
Hopefully he doesn't listen.
No, I don't. Maybe he knows.
Yeah. Okay, mine. It's kind of like a womp womp because like it's an obvious one. It's got to be on your list, and that's apiary, right?
No. Again, I knew it was going to be on your list. So
Okay,
I purposely
fair enough,
didn't pick it, but it wouldn't have been my number one anyway. So.
Okay, it is definitely my number one. Man, we made a podcast not that long ago about original versus sequels versus second prints, and I complained that I love Stonemaier, but all their recent games have just been sequels or reimplementations of something else. Libertalia, Rolling Realms is a streamed down version of everything else. Expeditions is a sequel to something else. Red Rising is based on a book, So this is the first time in a long time since probably, I guess, maybe Tapestry, which has been out for 5 years, that it's a truly original game. The theme is so cool. Again, I'm not a theme guy, but the theme is cool. Bees in space, right?
Yeah.
And they've kind of taken over because humans are no longer around.
You have to like exclamation points like bees.
Bees. Yeah. So, I mean, and mechanically it just sounds so cool. So you have these workers. I don't know if they're called beeples. I know they're called beeples in Honeybuzz.
I don't think they're called beeples. But
well, anyway. And they have different levels, and so whenever they get bumped off the board, they rotate and they upgrade, and you can create new actions, which is the equivalent of bees doing a dance to communicate with each other. And you're making like a mothership, and there's a hive, and there's a sleeping pod that triggers the end of the game. It's just so many cool mechanics in one game that is consistently, the reviewers are saying, it really is only 90 minutes, even with 5 players, and it doesn't feel like a long game. So it's got all that strategy that you want in a Euro without it being like 5 hours long, even at a big player count. It's got asymmetric player power, so it's fresh and replayable. This game is right up my alley, and I need it ASAP.
Yeah,
I think this week it'll be available for orders because they were waiting until Essen to put that live.
Yeah, a ton of videos dropped, and you kind of have to weigh, right? Like every content creator that got a copy of the game posted their review this week, and they're all glowing, right? So, we've had this happen before, right? Especially with some games. But it does see watching some gameplay footage, watching Rodney's how to play, it definitely looks like a cool game, right? It's a game that I would definitely, I don't know if I'm going to buy it. Although my Stonemaier champion thing renewed like a week ago. I forgot to cancel,
then you have to.
So I might as well, yeah. Get a discount, yeah. But it definitely seems like a cool game.
Well, that's why I appreciate. Like, I think I was watching the Tantrum House video on it, and I appreciate they do their likes and their dislikes, and then they were comparing it to other Stonemaier games. So, they did say, some of these cards or some of these powers are just like OP, but there are ways to mine the deck, and sometimes you have to switch your strategy based on what you pull, which is fair enough. Lots of games are like that. And they were kind of ranking it and talking about how, like, they would maybe put it on par with like an Expeditions or a Tapestry, but like it's not as good as Scythe. It's better than Pendulum, that kind of thing. And so I thought that was a really nice way of comparing it to other Stonemaier games to see where it ranks.
Right.
And the ones that they were saying, there were games that I love like Tapestry, but they were saying it's as good as or better. And it's like, well, if you're comparing it to Tapestry, which is a game I love, then this is one I think I'm definitely gonna like.
Right. Yeah. Nice. So I mean, it was gonna make my list, and I took it off at the last minute because I'm like, Mitchell's gonna talk about this because he loves everything Stonemaier. So
yeah.
And you come to think of it, I think my number one is actually not available to buy. So womp womp.
What do you mean it's not available?
I think it's just demo only. I think when I looked at my list, because when you go to
like
the
they're
BGG,
playing it there, but they're not going to be selling it yet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, I don't know, because I think when the BGG Essen preview list, you can sort, and then you can go by likes, and you can go by whatever, and then you can sort by purchasable or demoable. And I've done it a couple times over the last day or two, looking at the list, and I think maybe when I pulled this, I didn't sort by purchasable. But anyway. It's my man, Stefan Feld, right? It's the new Stefan Feld game, and it's Civolution, right? It says 2024. That's why it's throwing me off that it may not be available to purchase. So this may be demo only. But, hey, if I'm going to Essen and I can demo a game that's going to be coming out the next year from Stefan Feld, I'm going to do it, right? It's a Stefan Feld, civilization game, So it's civilization, dice, economic, exploration, science fiction. So sold, Stefan Feld game. Stefan Feld's take on a civilization game. Okay, I'm in. Sign me up. So
it's got a tech tree. I'm reading. Yeah, there's not even final box art, and that's the only image. So there's no way it's coming out this week.
No, it's definitely next year. So I can switch and talk about a couple.
No. I think it counts.
No, it counts because it's going to be there to demo, right? So this is I don't think it was demoable at Gen Con. So this is the first time people are going to be able to see kind of like a pre-production copy of the game and see how it plays. So I would definitely want to. Look area of movement, dice rolling, hand management, income, and you had me at Feld. So those are definitely the games. Now, one of the other games that I thought would be interesting is a little 2-player game called The Hunt that I could talk about. And it didn't quite make my list, but
honorable mention.
Honorable mention, yeah, The Hunt, and it's a 2-player card management asymmetrical card duel game where someone's going to be playing like the British Navy and someone's going to be playing like the German U-boats or the German Navy. Oh, okay. And so it's a little World War II, kind of like a cat and mouse, probably like you're hunting.
Do we need more World War II games?
Yeah. Do we need more science games? We just talked about like 10 of them.
That was specifically space games.
Space games, yeah. But no, this game looks kind of cool. I like the idea, and it's always good. I think we are in a little bit of a renaissance, or not renaissance, but there's been a ton of little 2-player. You have the Blitzkrieg and the
I was about to say the Blitzkrieg and the Caesar games. Like that's what it gives me the feeling of.
Same as So that was one of them, and then the only one that I was desperately looking for like kids games, right? I was looking for games because I like to talk about or find games that could be played at kids and really, the only one I found that like was kind of like hitting a buzz, it looked like it was light enough and had a 9+ age range, was Penguin Airlines. It looks a little complicated though when you look at the board. It's a little busy, but it's like you and a group of people, so it's 2 to 8 players, and you're playing Penguin Airlines, and you're trying to get like one person plays as the air control tower, and the other members of the crew of Penguin Airlines, and it's supposed to be like you're kind of incompetent, you're not the best because penguins don't fly, right? So it's like.
I get it. Yeah. You had to explain it to me. I didn't get it at first.
Right, and you're trying to just get to 12 points to win. So it's like you complete instructions, you counter, and you have 30 seconds to continue your flight. So it's like this little back and forth, like party-ish type game. That looked about the lightest game or most kid-like.
Is this in the? I guess it's not in the Ice Cool universe, huh? I don't think so.
No, that would be interesting. It was like a continuation of Ice Cool. They graduated high school.
No,
now they're in Penguin. No, but that is probably the only. That's probably the only kid type game that I would think about that I found that would be good for kids. So I always like.
So for me, this wasn't on my list, but I almost put it on the list just because my family loves cats. In fact, I have to say this almost every week, but if you guys hear my cats making ruckus in the background, I apologize. They run my life. But there's a game called MLEM. It's MLEM. I don't know if it's got to stand for something. Yeah. MLEM Space Agency, where it's like cat astronauts releasing at Essen. It's only a 2.0 weight, so I'm guessing it's family friendly. It's got some dice and some racing mechanics in it. Area majority, push your luck. So this was one I would say is my honorable mention, especially if you're looking for a family weight game. It's got some really cute cats in spacesuits on it, and it's one I'm going to keep my eye on because it might be one I could convince my wife to play with me because she loves cats, not board games so much.
There you go, cool. My I was then also like thinking about expansions or like sequels or things like that, and I found well obviously Lost Ruins of Arnak. Like that's already out and published.
My friend got it in this past weekend.
I'm like, I need to get it. That's the must. But the one that I saw, and this is a shout out to Carlos because I know he's gonna be listening to this, and I know Carlos loves racing games. So Flamme Rouge actually has a new expansion coming out called.
Oh, is it called Heat Pedal to the Metal?
No, it's called Grand Tour. It's Flamme Rouge Grand Tour, and it introduces multi-stage campaigns. So you can actually do like a Tour de France type thing. Oh. So you've got three stage tours all the way up to 21 stage Grand Tours. New tiles, new tracks, special stages, special riders. So it's like a campaign version of Flamme Rouge or the racing. I know that like the Beans and Ice crew people, I missed out on it, but they had like the whole Thunder Road or Thunder Alley like league where they had weekly races.
Wait, no, that was Rallyman, wasn't it?
No, it was like Thunder Road
okay,
or Thunder
Road's pretty cool.
One of those, yeah. We've tried to do it with a few of the different ones, getting them going. But yeah, this Flamme Rouge Grand Tour just looked really cool, and it's right up the racing. And it adds the ability to do tours and multiple gameplays and things like that. So I figured I would mention that on the thing so that Carlos's interest would be piqued and he would look at it. So nice. That'd be good, yeah. So.
Man, that's one of the widest ranges in playing time I've ever seen, 30 to 210 minutes.
Well, it's probably if you do all the stages, right? All 21 stages.
Oh, that's not supposed to be done in one setting.
I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. So, cool.
Gotcha. Well, it's time for our shameless plugs. Next week is Sobo, Southern Board Game Festival. This is the last time I will plug it because... Or maybe I'll plug it one more time next week because Wednesday of next week is whenever badge sales end. But it's a small little gaming con here in Lafayette, Louisiana. We got a food fest going on across the street if you want some Cajun food. Got a crew from the Beans and Dice coming in. We'll have some special guests. Berkey from Game Toppers just gave away some awesome stuff live last night. Well, 2 days ago by the time this drops, that he sent. And we'll have Carla Cott from Weird Giraffe Games as well as some other more local designers. We got a game from Martin Wallace that's being playtested by Woody from Hutchu Games that they're about to go live with Kickstarter on. Plus a bunch of guided playthroughs and hot games and a board game bazaar and a raffle and all kind of fun stuff. A lot of people in this area that aren't as connected to the board gaming world as we are, Wayne, this is their con. This is the extent. So it's really cool whenever people from the wider gaming community come in and can kind of, pepper in a little bit of what they know in games that are popular in those game groups and not popular here. So, yeah, we'd love to see more people come out if possible in Lafayette, awesome. Louisiana.
I think it's a valid point is you've got, and someone talked about it on one of the other podcasts I was listening to this week, is there's when you think about it, even as big as Gen Con and Essen and Dragon Con and Origins and PAX East are and Unplug and all these other things, how big they are, it's still just a fraction of the people who play board games. And the vast majority of people never make it to a convention. And if they do, it's a local convention like Sobo or like Necronomicon. So that's what you got to support. Support the local, go local. I go to the big ones, but I still love going to the go ones. I would love to be at Sobo because you have the food festival. You got great games and giveaways. I mean, it's fantastic.
We got 70 games we're giving away. It's awesome.
For a local con, that's that hasn't been around for 40 years. Mm-hmm. The amount of stuff that you guys have and the connections you've gotten and the game designers and Berkey from Game Toppers and all the giveaways, it's pretty impressive. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to BJ. Look, we were going to talk about BJ regardless, but
yep, there you go.
No, so the play to win, literally, you'll probably recoup your badge cost if you come because we have 70 games and if you play them one time, your name gets put into a hat to potentially take it home that night.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I'll do the shameless plug that, this is our podcast. This is just Mitchell and I, trying our best to be somewhat entertaining. Doesn't always work out, and especially when I have a break. I can't think of a name of an actor or game for like 20 minutes. It's always great radio for silence. But no, the real show, the real deal is the Thursday Night Live call-in show every Thursday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Carlos and the Beans and Dice crew, they take your calls. So it's, I think BJ is the one who started out the whole It's like a sports radio thing.
Yeah, it's a great elevator pitch to explain.
It's a good elevator. If you ever listen to sports radio, you call in, you make the show yours, talk about games, ask questions, disagree, talk about nerdy things, whatever. So it's really good. We love phone calls, love people calling in and talking and giving us new stuff. So feel free to join in. We have a great Discord server. Join that. Find us on Facebook. There's links to Discord and Facebook right on the YouTube channel. Always VGA games going on, always the news getting posted, deals and sales. So it's a great community to be involved in if you're looking for something to do. So,
for sure, I agree. Yeah, and I love how it really started as a Florida thing. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but then there are a few people from other places. We got Kyle from Chicago and Ron from Atlanta and me from here in Louisiana. And I feel like at first we were the outliers, right? It was like we were the random guys not from Florida, but it's really started growing and becoming more of a national thing. We got people from all over, Getty up in somewhere in the Northeast. Is it Philly?
Boston area.
Boston, okay, close enough. So that's what I like, seeing the community grow. And it doesn't matter if you can't go to the game day at Armada, once a month, because we have a very vibrant gaming community in the Discord. I probably played more games with Wayne than I have with some people in my game group because of BGA. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, check it out. And until next time, I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Wayne.
And this is the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
Take it easy, folks.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.